Welcome to Dairyland Frights, the podcast that covers everything creepy, spooky, and mysterious in the Midwest and beyond. And boy, today, you are in for a real treat. I have a very special guest with me, Joe Diamond. And before I introduce him, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a taste here, and then he can take over because, you know, he can tell you all the great things he does. And believe me, he does, people. After you listen to this, you're going to hop on, you're going to be going to his website and all the different places that Joe will bring up and be like, oh, come on, how do you do that? But Joe Diamond, his stage name, if that's okay, Joe, has spent years transforming banquets, ballrooms, theaters, and private homes into places of genuine wonder. So really, Joe can talk about this a little bit more, but one of the things he kind of blends clean comedy, if you watch it, which I have, and I love it, intuitive psychology, which he can explain what that is, interactive mind reading moments that pull everyone into the experience. So you're going to laugh. You're going to not cry, folks, because you're going to gasp. You're going to be like, what? How did he know that? What's going on with this? The other thing I love, just really quickly and talk more about it, is he holds a world record, folks. And you're like, world record? What's his world record? You can talk about more on this. He solved the largest corn maze blindfolded. I can't even do a corn maze with my real eyes seen, okay? And you can talk about the spoon bending. Please don't bend my spoons today, Joe.
No, not today.
Not spoons.
Today. No, we're good.
But
we're good with that.
I would love to introduce you to Joe Diamond. He is such a great person, and you're going to learn that today. Thank you for coming, Joe.
Thank you, John. Wow, with an introduction like that, wow, it's like I feel pressure now. It's like, oh gosh, I've gotta like live up to this. Like when people like, yeah, it's still weird because people when they just, you know, hearing all that stuff listed in a row, it's like, oh, like again, it doesn't feel like it as you're doing this for 20 years and performing throughout the Midwest. So my moniker kind of is the Midwest Mystic. Some call me a mind reader. Some call me, a magician, a psychic, a mentalist. However, I'm not a medium. I'm a large. That's my wife's favorite joke, so I have to put it in every single show. Being a large, not a medium. And then, so I've grown up in the Midwest. I've loved the strange and mysterious my whole life. I've been doing, I started off in more traditional magic, but as I went along, I got more interested in things like palm reading and mind reading and the mystical side, you know, working in haunted locations and, you know, energies and those kinds of things, and started kind of blending it all into, it's not really a magic show in the sense I'm not pulling rabbits out of hats. I'm not, sawing anyone in half. But instead what I'm doing is hopefully pulling thoughts out of people's minds. So I'll have someone think of, just for example, one of the first things I do in my show is rather than someone picking a card out of a deck, they think of a card and I'll try and guess the card. I'll let them think of friends, family members, old pin codes. In my shows in Lake Geneva, I do something that's known as psychometry, which is holding onto an object, picking up on vibrations from it, and telling the history of its owner and the object and so on. And what's cool about when you get into this type of stuff is people often ask, like, what is the trick? And very often I'll just tell them, like, oh yeah, I'll be completely honest when I'm reading an object or picking up on vibes or just, part of the secret to that is not filtering and intuition, and we can get into all that. But it's funny where they go like, no, really. So it is interesting how, like, even when I'm completely honest, people still don't believe me. That said, I do believe my job as an artist is to create mystery. There are some things I do in my show that are theatrically enhanced, for sure. They have to be. It is a show. But at the same time, my show isn't in a theater. I do a weekly show at the Maxwell Mansion in Lake Geneva, which is one of the oldest buildings in the state and definitely one of, if not the most haunted location in Wisconsin. I know a lot of people talk about all these different places, but the Maxwell, the energy is off the charts. As far as I'm concerned. And so when I do my shows there, I'm in the ballroom and that seats only about 40 people. So it's more of like these old timey parlor shows that psychics and mentalists would have done in people's homes back around the turn of the century. And because there's no stage, there's no curtain, there's no lighting, I don't have big props. I just have my audience in their minds, and that's what makes it kind of real and raw and in the moment. It's truly something that is so interactive. I actually have introvert seating listed for people who don't want to participate, who just want to come and just watch. Because some people don't. Well, in all seriousness, as a part-time introvert, when I'm not working, I have introvert days and non-introvert days to kind of reset. I get the fear of wanting, not only to be part of a show, like a comedy show or improv show. Oh my God, am I going to be embarrassed? No, there's all that fear. And then on top of it, what's this guy going to say I'm thinking or feeling? So some people, in fact, the number one fear is public speaking. Still to this day, survey after survey, people would rather jump out of a plane than get up in front of any group of people and speak, let alone have someone next to them speak their thoughts aloud. So we have the introvert seating because we want everyone to feel welcome. We want everyone to feel comfortable and safe. And I do take it as a responsibility to do that. At the same time, as an artist, I do think part of the experience is having that, again, not uncomfortableness, but that spookiness, that moment of what did we get ourselves into? I think of it like a real life Twilight Zone episode, except I'm not the main character, the audience is. Let's face it. We got tickets to see the show. What's it called? Psychic Parlor. Where is it? It's at this old mansion. It's reportedly haunted. Like, this is a setup for a Twilight Zone episode. You're following these people into the show, and the show's about to start, and who knows what happens at that point. And I try to bring as much of that feeling into this immersive experience as possible.
Yeah, I love that, Joe. It sounds like an intimate experience that you're not. So I've seen, I don't know, magicians, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I saw Penn and Teller in Vegas. And it not that it's not intimate, okay?
Sure.
And it's pretty cool stuff. But you're with 500 people, maybe more.
Well, yeah. Well, Penn and Teller have the biggest stage in Vegas. They've got 1,000 seats. They got 2 balconies.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, they're massive, and like part of their job is to make that like. And I've done, I did their show. I performed on their show, and I've done bigger theater shows. Like a couple years ago, I did a few Halloweens at the Woodstock Opera House, also reportedly haunted. It's where they filmed the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray in Woodstock, Illinois. That building he jumps out of at one point is actually a theater. And it was actually the first theater Orson Welles ever performed in and directed in. So we did an Orson Welles seance there one year. And it was, it was funny because people were like, oh, it's 400 seats. That place is huge. It's actually quite intimate. Like the balcony is like, it feels like within arm's reach. When the lights came up and I looked at the audience, I recognized a friend in the very last row of the top balcony. So even though it's 400 seats, it still feels very intimate. And that's part of my job too, is to make those bigger shows feel intimate. Because I'm hired by like companies and corporate planners sometimes to come in and entertain any number of people. Because I always feel weird like saying I work clean, because while I work clean, sometimes people's reactions aren't so clean.
Okay.
Sometimes they've said, it's always hilarious when like the prim and proper CEO suddenly, shouts out, George Carlin word you can't say on TV. But I think part of the reason why that's so effective is the fact that I am working clean, and I try to work tactfully. I think, we definitely, like, I'll have people think of, like, I have a list of things people can think of for one piece, where they can think of whatever they can choose. They can choose. There's a page in this notebook that says, think of your favorite movie, think of a memory. And there's pages in there like, think of your PIN code, think of a naughty memory, think of your most embarrassing memory. And if they don't want to pick those, they can move on to something else. But if they want to and have fun, the door is open for them. And there's ways I handle it if they do choose to go that route. I make sure everyone is, treated with respect and everything. But that doesn't mean we can't, have fun and have a little, the whole point of, I think, mystery entertainment, whether it's more traditional magic like Penn and Teller or psychic entertainment like what I do, the point is to kind of like expand and break what's possible. And so if I put too much of a box around it, it's, I feel like I'm cutting off for lack of a better term, the magic, the openness, the freeness of the immediacy of what's going on. But at the same time, I don't want to do that to the detriment of someone else's, embarrassment or something. But some people are like, oh, there's no way he'll figure out this thing. Let's see. And then when I get it, that's extra fun too.
Yeah, I love that. Because again, it makes it fun. It makes it it makes a meaningful night out experience, than just going to a movie. Nothing wrong with that, or a play, but sometimes it's fun
movies.
just to, plays, just do something a little bit different, and you're not really challenging yourself in a sense, but you're kind of challenging yourself to kind of put yourself out there.
Yeah.
If that's what you so choose to do. So before we get into the mind of Joe, where I have some questions for him, tell me about your first paranormal experience, what you remember, like how old you were, and like what happened.
So I'm going to give a very, very brief prologue before what I consider my first real paranormal experience, because technically I was so young that I didn't realize what was going on was paranormal. I just took it as face value as normal.
Sure.
So I am the only child in the middle of two massive families. My late mother was from a family of 7. My dad's from a family of 5. I have cousins I haven't even met. I am the only child within 3 branches of family trees. And my great grandmother, my nanny, lived very close by. And my mom would go over and visit her and bring me. And when I was first, I got started, I liked murder mystery books. I liked books like The Invisible Man. And when I started reading about magic tricks, like card tricks, I was like, I didn't piece this together at the time, but I thought, oh, this is a way to make those things in those TV shows and movies that I like real. I watched Nick at Night growing up with Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. But again, I didn't realize those were old. I just thought, oh, those are the black and white shows that come on at 8:00.
Right.
So I didn't realize I was the only kid watching those. And my great grandmother saw my interest with cards and started teaching me how to read playing cards, just like tarot cards. It's called cartomancy. Very, very brief footnote in this prologue. She taught me there's 52 cards in the deck, 52 weeks in the year. 4 suits, 4 seasons, 12 picture cards, 12 months, 13 values, 13 different phases of the moon. If you add the cards value for value, ace plus 2 plus 3, you get 364. And we add the Joker, you get 365. So she taught me all of that. And I kind of learned how to just kind of tell fun stories and fortunes and such. And my parents ended up sending me to a very religious school where they were like, this is of the devil. And that just made me want to do it more.
Of course.
But again, I didn't when I was doing that, to me, that wasn't paranormal, making these connections and finding these hits. That wasn't outside of my realm. The first one that was truly was, I tell a very truncated version of this in the show. It was eating cereal and my mom was getting mad at me each morning that the spoons were bending. I wasn't doing it. I was just having my cereal. And finally one time I focused on it. And then I read about people like Uri Geller, things like Project Alpha, which if you new listeners haven't listened or know anything about Project Alpha, my friend Brian Brushwood did a podcast on it. He has a show called The World's Greatest Con. Long story short, these 2 young men who were magicians but did not tell these scientists back when Uri Geller was getting tested a lot. They went in and did move things with their mind, but had hidden magnets on them and those kinds of stuff. And for years. And it's like a spy movie, the levels they went to fake this paranormal phenomenon to see if they could fool the scientists. And it's a fascinating listen. I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but I remember reading about that as a kid, which got me on the path of reading about, again, Uri Geller, James Randi, and yeah, so it was the spoon bending that was technically, because that was the first time I was like, wait, am I doing this? Why is it happening? And really starting to learn about it. And I've had dozens of, we'd call them paranormal experiences. I think a lot of people, everyone says 1 out of 4 people have experienced a paranormal event. I think everyone does. It's just 1 out of 4 people are observant enough or give it credit. One of the quotes that has really stuck with me, I believe it's an Einstein quote. It's there's two ways to live your life. One is to treat nothing like a miracle, and the other is to treat everything like it's a miracle. I choose to be in the latter.
Yeah.
When someone says,
Right.
like, oh, that's just a coincidence, and I try and brush like an amazing thing off, to me, that's more disturbing. The idea that no one or nothing, no paranormal entity was pulling the strings to make this, cosmic connection happen. It just happened on its own. That's more disturbing. That's more amazing.
Right.
The next one that comes to the top of my mind, back in the early days of iPhone, like 2012-ish, my grandfather passed away, and my grandmother, a month or so later, ended up going on a trip just to get out of the house and everything else. She was gone for like a month. So I watched the house, and I had one of those early ghost hunter apps on my phone, like just one of those wrinkly things. And one of the things it had was random letter generators, where you just hit it and it would just put up a bunch of letters, boom, 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 and you could try to find and see if there was a message in it or something. It's really silly when you think about it. It's like, oh, it's just a random letter generator. It's not it's not reading any signals, but the idea is that if something paranormal was in the area, it could influence it. And I sat in my grandfather's chair. His name was Grandpa Bob or Robert. I said, Grandpa Bob, are you here? Hit it. Very first line, first three letters, B-O-B.
Wow.
Bob. I'm like,
wow.
Took the Alan Watts advice, and I'm like, I got the message. I hung up the phone. I left. I was like, okay, done.
Yes.
Whenever someone's like, oh, you should have stayed around and tried more, seen whatever, I'm like, no, that was enough for me. That's okay. I don't need to and to me too. So I have a very good friend who's very, very skeptical. My wife's a much bigger skeptic than me as well. And I think it's healthy to have those conversations. There's definitely things I'm skeptical about that I've talked with other believers of certain things in. So I've been on both sides for sure. But one of the things that just for lack of a better term, rubs me the wrong way is whenever someone says, oh, there's no scientific evidence for the paranormal, I just go, yeah, that's why it's called the paranormal. Para meaning outside and normal meaning normal. If there were a scientific reason for it, it would just be normal. And Arthur C. Clarke said any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I mean, go back in time 200 years. If you invented a radio 100 years before it was actually invented and known, and people heard oh, he's speaking into a box, his voice is going into the ether and coming out the other side, that's the spirit realm. Burn the witch.
Correct.
I think there's a lot we don't know yet. And that's part, and again, part of my job, I feel is because I'm not in a classroom, because I am an artist, I can ask these questions and be okay and fairly comfortable with people coming up with their own answers for a lot of these things, whether it's oh, was what I did on stage a trick or real, or if it was real, what does this mean about all of us? Sometimes just random occurrences happen in the show, total coincidences, and people are like, oh, that's part of the show, right? And I'm like, very often, almost every other show in October at the Maxwell Mansion, when we were getting closer and closer to Halloween night, the chandelier in the middle of the room would shake and flicker, even though there'd be no one upstairs. And people were always like, oh, that was a good gag when that happened. Do you have someone up there pushing a button? I'm like, no, it just happened.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So that was one of my, well, let me we'll get into that in a sec here. One of the things, Joe, is, do you remember what your earliest, most impactful, I'll say, I will use spiritual or mystical, I'll just use those generic terms, but experience, you kind of talked about the spoon bending, but something that was more impactful, which you had earlier in your life that said, well, maybe I'll go down this road. Maybe this is something I can turn into a fun experience for an audience, or I don't know, make a little bit of money at it. Not to say money is important, but a living or whatever.
But make a living, make my way in the world. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So this was a lot later in life. I'd already been performing through high school. I did improv in high school, a little bit of theater. But my kind of big break was when I was 17, I got a job they booked me as Streetmosphere Entertainment at Six Flags Great America, a theme park just north of Chicago.
Okay.
this was the early 2000s. So David Blaine was very popular. So they said in their casting call, oh, we're looking for street magicians. And I went in and I did spoon bending, and, I still did some card tricks and stuff. By the end of that summer, I also would and I read poems and cards and stuff. But I always saw that as, for lack of a better term, separate, pardon me. So it was really there that I really started combining it all. And by the end of that first summer, I was reading poems, reading minds. I could walk out. I loved it because I could walk out without needing any props on me. Like in that summer heat, a deck of cards would last like half a day in the humidity. It would just get all mushy and be in my pocket and stuff. So the fact I could just walk out and just read people's poems all day was a blast. So I had a lot of, for lack of a better term, show business experience under my belt. But it's also at this very family friendly, theme park and all that other stuff. What really made me go, and I already knew it was a career for me and everything, but when I really locked in of, there's something deeper to this. And even I hate to go this extreme this early, but spiritual element to what I do was when I met my late mentor, Eugene Berger. I was very fortunate enough to have a few great mentors. One of them was Eugene. He was from Chicago, and he worked in, throughout his 20s and 30s, he worked in Yale Divinity School. He taught philosophy and religion and did welfare work. And one day he woke up at age 39 and said, when am I going to stop following other people's dreams and follow my own? And he quit all his jobs and he started working as a close-up magician. But what he would do is he took his interest in philosophy and religion and put it into his magic. It wasn't just the deck of cards. He found their card. He would ask the spirits to show us their card, and the deck would cut itself. And the card would come out, and they would take the card, they would take the deck. It was everything. He told these beautiful stories too. He did something about the Inquisition, Spanish Inquisition. And he did it on a PBS special on the history of magic and shamanism and stuff. And I remember watching it on TV as a kid. I was like, who is this guy? Because he had this big beard, this deep voice, and he's talking about, all this weird stuff, and the stuff that I was interested in. So he put out books for magicians. He became very influential, very influential. You go up to any magician and say Eugene Berger, they'll be like, oh my God, yes, he was one of the greats. And he lived in Chicago, and I was very fortunate enough that right after being done at Six Flags, got the chance to meet him after idolizing him for the better part of 5-6 years. And we went out to dinner after the show. And the moment that made me go, my God, this is on another level. And I'm both doing this too complicated, and I'm also not nearly on the complex level he's at. He did a card trick, and I'll describe it to you. He never taught it. He never taught it while he was alive.
Okay.
And I saw him do it multiple times since then. So so this is something, and it's so simple. He asked me for a deck of cards. He's like, do you have a deck of cards?
Okay.
Took it out of the box, fanned through, and he just spread them out and said, Joe, do you believe you have free will? And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure. He said, let's test that. Take your finger. I took my finger. The cards were face up on the table. He had me move it along the spread. He's like, and whenever you want, bring your finger down on a card. And I did. I remember to this day, it was the 4 of clubs. Deck was face up, boom, right there, 4 of clubs. It's like 4 of clubs. Perfect. Every card in the deck has its mate. The ace of spades has the ace of clubs. The queen of hearts has the queen of diamonds. 4 of clubs has the 4 spades. Go through the deck and take out the other black 4. My deck, I go through it once. Oh, I must have missed it. And I go back the second time, and it's not there. And I look at him. I go, it's not there. And he just goes, of course not. It's still in the card box. And I look at the card box still near me. And I realize I look through the edge. There's one card face down in it. And I took it out, and it was the card. And I'm still getting goosebumps talking about it right now.
Wow, yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, he's on a completely different level.
Yeah,
now,
right?
He did write it up to be released upon his passing. It's literally, again, it's such a simple fact. I described it in one sentence, but the thought and level to it, and again, he didn't need to tell, because again, I grew up watching him telling these complex stories and everything else, but also that was the lesson where it was just one line. Do you believe your will is your own? And a deck of cards. And it made me question everything.
Yeah.
And still to this day, like, and we've talked a lot about, he was very generous with talking about the psychology of his work and the philosophy of his work. And a lot of that same psychology and philosophy is in this. But still to this day, it's very much, I'll put you this way. I've tried it a few times. I've only successfully pulled it off once, and we will leave it at that.
Okay.
So that's the level it was at.
Wow.
Because there's no sleight of hand. He doesn't touch the deck, nothing. It's purely, and again, people say like, oh, wow, your psychology and you must be great at reading people and this. And I'm just like, oh, Eugene was on it. Like every time I hear that, I'm like, oh, he was on another level. But also he said the same thing about his mentors too. And I think that's kind of the beautiful thing is like, and that's as much as I'm trying to give people that same experience. Because I remember wondering, like it was so clean. I was like, did he just get lucky? Like, is that even a thing? And I have some stuff that is similar to that still evokes that. And he really was influential in sending me down that particular path. But it was, that's something I'd say that was probably like one of the more formative things. And I know it's weird saying like this, a card trick, but it was, in many ways, it was more. It was a metaphor for is my will my own,
Yeah, exactly.
Is the future predetermined? It was all without him having to say any of that out loud. I felt it all in that.
Wow. That's an amazing experience. And that's something I can see why you would remember and give you goosebumps because that's just like, how is this possible? Are we on a different plane of existence or what's going on here?
Exactly.
Right? That's awesome.
Yep.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about your performance then, okay? Do you have a pre-ritual, Joe, before you go on, you're in the green room, or wherever? And
I don't have a green room at the Maxwell, but occasionally there is at like, again, these older theaters or like company events, I'll usually be waiting in like a hospitality suite or something as a green room before they introduce me or something. So there's sometimes that. It's funny you say that because one of the things Eugene taught me is always ask, where does the show begin and when does it end? Like, does it begin? It doesn't always begin when you step out on stage. For some people, it's when they hear there's going to be someone special at the event they're going to. For some people, it's the moment you get out of the, and what's great now is I have an advantage he never had. He just had like a website with a few clips and like a couple write-ups of things he had done. Like, now with one click, I can send everyone, all the YouTube and TV and podcast stuff I've done. And like, he never had that opportunity to do all that in one click, easy and done. So for me, it's, I'm really trying to, and I think about this a lot too, because when you come to the Maxwell, everyone there, like, the moment you get out and you just look at the house, it's like, oh my God, we're in a special place. Before you even like step through the doors, you can kind of feel it coming in. That said, for me, right before I'm introduced, so I do a couple things. First thing, very simple, I ground myself, just some deep breaths, imagine roots taking place in my feet, going into the floor, everything else. And I remind myself that this is someone's first time seeing not just my show, but any kind of show like this. And for someone else, it's probably going to be their last. So for all the stuff, for all the jokes and lines and, things that kind of make me feel like, doing this again, this is so old, this is so tired. It reminds me like, hey, this is going to be someone's first and or last time ever seeing me. So I got to make this count. The other thing I tell myself is tonight is part of the process. What matters so much, like, yes, I want to give a good show for them, but what matters even more than that is the performer I am 5 years from now. So, like, what can tonight is part of becoming that version of me, several years down the line. And then finally, just have fun. I didn't, yes, like I said, I do my fair share of corporate work, but I'm not like a corporate performer.
Okay.
And like, So perfect example, this last year, I did more house parties in people's homes than company events. I still did them, but I did just more of those. And I think there's a variety of reasons for it. However, I think one of the biggest reasons and what's kind of tough with me, and someone was even mentioning last night, was, it's kind of hard to visualize how it's going to work, A, without seeing it, and B, without seeing it in the format. Because I've had people in the big shows say, oh my gosh, how do you only do this for 12 people, like in a boardroom? Your finale used 30 people. How do you do this for 12 people in a boardroom? And then when I met like the Maxwell and it's 40 people, they're like, oh my gosh, how do you do this for 200 people? I don't like, oh my, that's amazing. So I've gotten good at adapting to that. But at the same time, some people, because what I'm selling isn't like, it's not a sound like with music. It's not a visual like with lasers or DJs or even like a play or, or a dancer or something. It is more of a feeling. And it's a feeling very often you have to be in the room to experience. Not always, but to achieve it at its highest level, it's I think important. And so, yeah, I mean, people, when I talked to some of my friends, they were like, oh, how's corporate season? Because for entertainers, like December is the corporate cash cow for everyone,
right. Yeah.
And at first I was about to say to them, I was about to lie what every performer does. Like, oh, it's going great. Oh, crushing it. It's great. It's about to lie. But I didn't. I told the truth. And it was liberating. And as I was telling them, because I could see kind of the worry in their faces, and I just said it out loud without even thinking it, almost like channeling it. And I was like, hey, if I cared so much about getting corporate money, I would have gotten a different job. Like I got in this job to not be in corporate America.
Yeah.
Again. And so if someone sees me and wants me, again, those are the events, whether it's corporate, whether it's a theater, whatever. Very often those are the ones I book. The ones who haven't seen me or just hear about me through the grapevine. Sometimes if they've seen me on Fool Us or something like that, or see all my stuff online, they really connect. That's great. But for the most part, like if they're just so there was a performer I knew who he's long since retired now. He did corporate shows. He was a hypnotist in corporate hypnosis shows. And if he answered the phone and someone was like, hey, we're looking for a hypnotist or we're looking for entertainment, he would just hang up the phone. Now he got to this point in his career where he could do that. And if he answered and they were like, hi, we're looking for Marshall Brodeen. It's like, yes, how can I help you? Like, because he knew if it was a hypnotist, when he said his fee, they'd be like, how many zeros is that? What? But if they're just looking for a hypnotist, well, we'll get a cheaper hypnotist. But there's only one him, so pick up the phone and so it's a similar kind of thing. I'm not quite that bold and brutal, but it's more an intuition thing where it's like if they say, hey, we want you for our event, or we heard we're looking for entertainment, your name came up. I'm like, that's why I might not book, but that's okay. So, I want to. I try not to alienate anybody, but at the same time, like I didn't get into this to water down what I do. And like, that's the thing too. Like, I think, there's an art form to not just to taking the audience into account, and like I put their experience almost always first, but through the lens of my art, just because I know they might like a fart joke right now, I'm not going to tell a fart joke, like, yeah, they may like it, but like, I'm here too. I got to do what I'm doing. I got to entertain them with my line of,
but nothing beats a good fart joke. Let's be honest. Okay.
I mean, and don't get me wrong too. Like, I work clean, but I've got tons of dirty jokes. I can, tell them with the rest of them. I've made people turn red out of embarrassment, and by people I mean my wife. When I'm telling these awful jokes.
Yeah, I love that. That's great because it's okay. It's something when you're experiencing something. By the way, you can swear on this podcast if you want. Everybody knows it's an explicit podcast.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll save my favorite. Technically, it's not technically dirty, but it's got a 4-letter word in it. We'll save my favorite joke for the end, so people can.
That sounds great.
Tune in. So that'll work for that.
That sounds great. So, a couple more questions before we have you amaze us with your some of your great mysticism, if you want to call it. I'll throw that out there.
Yeah, mysticism. Yeah, mind reading.
So one of the things is, getting back to the spooky, tell me about some of your really unexpected or surreal or paranormal experiences you've had. You talked about the Maxwell Mansion, but when you're performing, you talked about the chandelier, and you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. What other experiences have you had?
So I used to be a place in Illinois called the Dole Mansion, and back in its heyday, it was great. Unfortunately, it used to have all these different artists in these different studios. And unfortunately, they canceled the leases of all the artists. Whole big thing. This isn't a local politics podcast. We're not going to get into it.
Okay.
However, at the time, and it still is in many ways, a beautiful venue, beautiful building. And I had a studio on the second floor that's at 13 people where I did shows every week. It's kind of like, what kind of like really established myself in that area and here in the Midwest. And for Halloween, I would do shows in the main mansion. So technically it was two buildings that were so big they were connected. One building was built in the 1800s, and then there was an annex added on in the 1920s by Eliza Lou Ringling of Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey fame, which is pretty cool. She was Al's wife. So, and she oversaw the construction of it and everything. So my studio was in that annex, but in the main ballroom of the building, it was an art gallery. So they'd have different like artists in there each month, art shows. And for like 2 or 3 Halloweens, I rented out the whole first and second floor to do a show. I got about 75 people on the ground floor. And then afterwards, we did a 13-person VIP tour, flashlight tour of the second floor. So super cool, super amazing. So I don't know if you can see here. Here, I'll grab her real quick. So there was once an artist doing a show there. Her art company was called Day of the Dollies, and she had the better part of 100 of these creepy dolls. You'll have to watch the video version of the podcast to see my friend Flora. This is Flora. There were 100 of these all throughout the ground floor.
Creepy.
Now they were all different. She took all these old dolls, updated them. So yeah, so she's not evil. She's broken just a little bit like me. And she had they all had little wrist tags, which had the price and their name on it. So I was instantly like, Flora's my best friend. I got to buy her.
Yeah.
So I bought her. And they were like, oh, well, she'll have to stay on display until the end of the month when the show's done. Like, that's fine. That's totally okay. And so bought her, took some pictures, went home. My, at the time, girlfriend, fiance, now my wife, saw the photos and she's like, great, when's she coming home? Like, I was like, I love you.
Okay.
No questions or anything. So we were doing a horror movie, a spooky movie marathon for October. And she picked The Innocents, which is based on The Turning of the Screw, which the Netflix show Haunting of Bly Manor is based off of. This is the original black and white movie. And the name of the little girl in that movie was Flora, which is weird. I mean, that's not a common name within the same day. Now, granted, yes, I had spooky movies out. She just picked that one at random. Okay,
sure.
So, like, let's watch one more. I had all the Universal monster movies out, Frankenstein, Dracula, and those would usually be our second choice because they're all 70 minutes. They're just a little over an hour. They're not like quite a full movie. So, again, picked one at random, picked The Invisible Man. Great. I had completely forgot that the name of the love interest in that movie was also named Flora. So 3 Floras all in the same day, which again, like you can say that's a coincidence, but these kinds of connections like happen all the time at the Dole. And the one other final synchronicity I'll share, the last Halloween I was there on Halloween night, doing my show, I'm reading minds, and all of a sudden a bat flew down from the ceiling, circled everyone's head 3 times, and then flew up into the ceiling and vanished and never returned.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I do not want to get in trouble with the county. I don't want to get in trouble with the building.
Yeah.
Joe, you brought a bat into your show. So I was like,
what are you doing?
Like, normally I'd be like, leave it up. But I'm like, okay, let me be very clear. That was not part of the show. That was not expected. This is not my bat. But again, on Halloween, they have art events in there all the time. That didn't happen during an art event in March. That didn't happen during, the summer events or anything. None of them. It happened on Halloween during my show. Like, come on. So
well, what's the deal with that? At least you didn't pull an Ozzy Osbourne and grab it and bite its head off.
No. The most extreme thing I've had happen to me at the Maxwell, and I've been there for a while now, longer than the Maxwell, so again, those are like weird coincidences that happen, but the things that happen in the Maxwell, the vibes, the feelings, they have a speakeasy downstairs where Dr. Maxwell did a lot of his, we'll just say, unnecessary surgeries back in the day. And also he was retired when he built the house. So technically he wasn't the town doctor, but he was the closest one. So a lot of, so I chalk that up to a lot of the why there's so much different activity in the house. Some staff members say there's a little boy on the third floor. Some people have felt the presence of a man. I felt a more feminine presence. A couple of years ago, the owners let my wife and I stay the night there during the week for my wife's birthday. And we were the only ones in the building. They went home. They were like, oh, well, it's just you guys, we don't need staff member for the night. You work here, Joe. So yeah, we trust you. Taught me how to make an old fashioned and everything at the bar and all that. So I'm like, oh, cool. Thank you. So we were staying in the Grant room, which is right above the ballroom, which is right above the speakeasy where all those surgeries had. So right there. And my wife goes to bed. I'm sitting in front of the fireplace in the ballroom where I do shows every week. I finish my drink. It's a little after midnight. Close the book, stand up, look in the mirror over the fireplace, and I see a woman standing over my left shoulder. I turn around to see who it is. No one is there. I turned back and looked in the mirror, and no one was there. Now, full disclosure, I had 5 old fashions that night.
Okay.
So it was either the spirits or the spirits, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
However, the fact that, again, it happened in that spot. It happened when I was by myself.
Yeah.
I've done some other stuff. Like before the Halloween shows, I did sit down and kind of write a ghost story and folded it up, put it in my wallet, and then saw how much the audience could get right. And they were often more right than they weren't, which was kind of cool. And I've done stuff like that with my other work as well. But I've noticed in places like that, again, people's intuition goes off the charts. There are some things that I've tried to do in other venues and it's not as successful. And I don't think it's just atmosphere. I think it is literally something, in the vibe of the place where it helps it, feel better and helps it work.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Have you ever taken any spirit or something home with you? Like you get home and you're like, wait a minute.
I was about to say no.
Somebody came home.
I was about to say no, but then I realized, I did bring Flora home. So, I can't.
Yeah, right.
So this is my theory. And maybe one day I'll be proven wrong. And this might be considered semi-controversial, but I'm going to double down on it. I don't believe, I think energy can definitely hold an object. I feel like an energy and a vibe that reminds me of the Dole Mansion from Flora. I don't think a spirit from the Dole is in her. And I don't think a negative entity is going to attach to you unless you are a negative person. Because if something is in a place and it's been there for the better part of, a couple decades, couple 100 years, it's got to find you pretty special to leave and go with you.
Right.
And I don't think that happens nearly as much as some paranormal investigators on TV and elsewhere claim. Yeah. Very often I see people that happening to are pretty negative already and bring in their own negativity, their own vibes, their own manifestation to a lot of that. So I don't think, and I also do believe in tulpas, which is basically thought forms. The idea that if you convince yourself something is haunted, it will be haunted. And I think there's more negative tulpas than there are positive ones. I think there's definitely positive ones where,
yes.
Again, because they've done tests with this too, with quantum mechanics and even some more traditional scientists, where they've brought people in to places that definitely, weren't haunted, had no violent history, but told the story about it. And more people felt positive or negative without hearing the story after. So there is a lot of, we still don't know, kind of fuzzy science with a lot of this. Who knows, maybe one day, I hope one day I look back on this and go, oh, Joe, you were such an idiot. It was aliens the whole time. Duh. Yeah. Like they were testing us. We all know this now 100 years later, duh.
Yeah.
I hope it's, I'm being silly at that point, but the spirit of what I'm saying is I truly, truly believe, I think, if you're constantly, if you tell yourself something's awful, or if you tell yourself something's impossible constantly, you're making it awful and impossible for yourself. And if you choose not to do that, I truly believe there's nothing you can't accomplish. And I don't mean that in a, artsy fartsy way. I genuinely do believe it. I've seen people with, everything against them stay positive and work through it. and I've seen good things happen to terrible people too. But, I mean, I do think there's balance and karma in the world as well. But when it comes to like, I definitely feel like there's an energy. And when I hold on to objects for psychometry, so the idea behind psychometry, so you're holding on to it, and the objects we carry with us can absorb a part of our personalities and maybe even a part of our souls. That's what it literally means. Psycho as in mind or the soul, and metry, which is measure. So when I'm holding an object, I'm measuring, for lack of a better term, the soul content. And when I'm holding on to that object, I'm not filtering. I'm just going with whatever comes to me intuitively. And very often in the shows, I don't know who in the room it belongs to, so I'll give the reading and give it back to the correct person in the context of the show. Out and about, people will give me objects all the time, and I'll pick up on them and read them. But it is more empathy than it is, telepathy at that point, in my opinion. So yeah, do I definitely like pick up vibes and bring home vibes? Sure, but I bring home just as many negative vibes from human people as I do from a haunted place, honestly. And again, that's my own personal belief. I've had discussions with friends who have completely different takes on this or similar.
Sure.
But in my experience and the places I've been, yeah, there's nothing. And again, like at the Maxwell, there's nothing evil or negative there. That's just wants attention for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when I talk to like paranormal investigators and stuff, and they talk to me about that, and talk to me how sometimes, though, if they're feeling, I don't know, vulnerable, sometimes they feel like a ghost or a spirit is attacking them. And, who's to say what that means and stuff? Like you said, if you go in with a negative attitude, probably something negative in there probably is going to attach you to it versus a positive attitude. But I've interviewed a number of paranormal investigators, and they've had all the different stories about, being affected by the spirit or the ghost. So
without mentioning names, because I don't have to, think of the most like negative TV paranormal investigator you can, who's like super like not nice, and big surprise, everything's a demon to them. Big surprise. Yeah, I'm not even mentioning names. We're all doing telepathy right now. We all know the Scooby Doo bro I'm talking about. And, sure, like, sure, bigger bank account, but like, I'd rather, again, as a human being, and like, I'd rather, as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing what I love. I don't see things as like, oh, I need, because that's the other thing. After I did the Penn Teller show, people were like, do you want to go to Las Vegas? I was like, no, I've already worked the biggest venue in Las Vegas. The Maxwell, you can't build this anywhere. It has to already exist. Like, that's the dream.
Correct.
I'm in my own bed each night. Like, it's amazing. So yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm about spreading love and light, but when people aren't being not just negative, but jerks and not great, that does rub me the wrong way. And, I think it's important to get it out and not let it fester at the same time.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Joe. If you become a ghost, what's the first thing you're going to haunt?
Like me in general?
Yes, you're a ghost.
Okay, I thought you were asking like in general, if you become a ghost. If I became a ghost, what would I haunt? Ooh. Okay, I'm going to give you an answer, but it's not mine. A friend of mine does, his name is Paul Draper. He's a former anthropologist. He does mentalism as well. And each year for Halloween, he's done like seances at the Magic Castle and stuff. And these are more like old school, like spook shows than like true seances. Whereas I don't have any experience with the spook shows, but I have been a part of some true seances. But he knew the very funny comedy magician, the amazing Jonathan. He has his own show in Vegas. Sure. He had all those like, goofy gags. He was called the Freddy Krueger of comedy. Like, would cut his arm off. He'd, do all these crazy, but like the tricks never worked except for when he hurt himself. It was hilarious. He was dying of cancer for a very long time. And Paul knew him. And amazing Jonathan said to him, you better hope, because Jonathan was a very diehard skeptic as well. He didn't believe in any afterlife. He's like, you better hope I'm right. Because if I'm wrong and I'm stuck being a ghost, I'm going to show up to every one of your seances. And I'm going to keep all the tricks from working. So it will be a real seance, but no one will believe you because nothing happened.
Love that.
All the tricks failed. But you will know it, but no one else will. It's just like that. I think that I would find one of my friends and be like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun." So
that would be great, right?
I can't top that. I can't top.
No,
that. So
you can't. Yeah, one of your right. Yeah, one of your friends doing a show that they're like, "Okay, these cards," and then Wait a minute. Wait,
Wait, what?
where'd my cards go? Over there. Look at you, Joe.
Dang it.
Awesome. So let's get into, if you're okay, to do some, I'll just call them tricks for right now.
Sure, yeah. Some people call them tricks. I remember Amazing Kreskin got really upset when people call them tricks. Effects, tests, pieces. So I want to, so a few things. So we will do a couple mind reading tests.
Okay, great.
And just to say this, quick clarify. As much as I don't mind the word trick, I do want to be careful with some of these, because we're going to try some of this not only with you but also listeners. Now, I've done this with other podcasts, and as far as I've experienced, people who are intuitive, they still pick up on stuff even though it's a recording, and a lot of it does work. So we're going to do a couple things. We'll start with something with you and everyone listening, okay? And then we'll do a couple things one-on-one. So I don't want someone to be like, the trick didn't work. No, this isn't meant to be a trick. This is meant to be a test to warm up, basically, okay?
Okay.
So to start with, I'm going to send you a thought, okay? This will give you a chance to see how this works. It gives you a chance to, and everyone listening, to know what it feels like when you get this right and when you get it wrong. And it gives us a chance to just warm up in general. So I will think of a memory from my past. I will project it out to you and all the other listeners. If they're listening in the car, they can just, keep on going. If you're able to close your eyes and you're listening, again, not if you're driving the car, but if you're able to, it may help with this. Again, for some people it helps. For some people it doesn't matter. What matters is that you listen and follow my instructions as closely as possible. Don't shout any answers out loud, okay? And John, don't think about too long. Go with whatever comes to you naturally, okay? Intuition is knowing without knowing. Same thing for the listeners. So if anyone's watching, they can look in my eyes, and you can look in my eyes too, John. Otherwise, if you're just listening, take a deep breath. And exhale, or else you'll suffocate. Very good. Take another deep breath. And as you exhale, get in your mind a number from 1 to 10. Lock it in your mind. Don't change it. Remember that number. All right, we'll do it again. Again, I'll keep it simple. Take another deep breath. As you exhale, get in your mind a direction on a compass. Lock it in your mind. Don't change it. Remember that direction. All right, this last one's going to be the most difficult. But this time I want you and everyone else to think of 2 simple geometric shapes, one inside the other, like a square inside of a rectangle. Don't, as I just said them, but take a deep breath. Exhale. Remember those 2 shapes. All right, I'm curious to see how this went. I'll tell you the memory I was thinking of, and we'll see how many of these you got right. So, and people can message on Instagram. I'm at Joe Diamond Live on Instagram. They can comment on videos or on the podcast, Dairyland Frights, how many of these they got right. So I was actually thinking about my first day in class in high school, and I couldn't find geometry class. So I asked someone where it was, and it was on the north side of the building. When I got to the classroom, I noticed there were 7 other students there already. And when I sat down, the teacher had already drawn on the chalkboard a circle and a triangle. Now, how many of those did you get, John? Be honest.
3.
You got all 3. Okay,
all
perfect. Okay, that's great.
What?
So we're obviously connected. Some people usually get, two of the 3. Some people only get 1, or some people get none. Let me talk about the people who did genuinely get none just now.
Yeah.
Because I do talk about this in my shows. That's okay. These are the types of people who are better at generating ideas than being open to other ideas, okay? And you need both for all forms of communication, and I need both in my shows. These are the types of people who, when I asked for simple shapes, thought of like a star inside of a dodecahedron. And went, what? Those are simple.
What?
So a good way to test this as well, if you want to do this, you can. People who just did this can try it out as well. But take your index finger, put it to your forehead, and draw the letter Q, a capital letter Q, and stop when you're done. Now, right now, you're over either your right eye or your left eye. Okay. Now, if you're over your right eye, you drew that Q the way you see it, which shows you're really good at communicating your perspective to other people. Whereas if you drew it and the tail ended over your left eye, you drew it as if someone else could see it. So you're seeing it more from the outside in rather than the inside out. So that kind of shows the 2 different ways you can go with this. And of course, this is more psychological than it is psychic, but it does allow us to kind of warm up a bit. So this worked with all 3 with you. So we're going to give this a shot. John, you don't have to tell me your full last name because I genuinely don't know it. But what are your initials? What are your 2 initials?
JR.
Okay. We're going to do another kind of visualization thing. I want you to imagine, I've got a notepad and a pencil here. I'm going to write something on here, but while I'm writing it, because it takes a little time, you'll see what I mean. Did you ever, when you were younger, go to the park or somewhere and there was that picnic table or that tree where everyone had like drawn in magic marker or carved on it like a bunch of hearts with like their initials in them of like their first crush and all that and everything? Okay.
Sure.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to kind of go back in time in your mind to that for me, John. And because I'm going to draw a heart here. And I want you to think of one of the first people you can remember having a crush on. Okay. Now, it can be a celebrity crush. It can be your very first crush. It can be one of your first crushes. Okay.
Okay.
And just think of their initials. Okay. We won't go for the full name because this will be public and everything. So we'll just go for the initials here. Okay. Let me know when you've got those initials in mind.
Okay.
Okay. Now, it's going to sound crazy or strange, but I need you to look at the camera, but not at like me on the screen. I need you to look right at the camera and don't react. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. You're going to do this again backwards. Keep thinking of those initials. Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P, O, N, M, L, K, J, I, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. Okay, you kind of stopped thinking about the initials because you were like, oh my God, he can actually do this backwards. So think of the initials once more. Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P, O, N, M, L, K, J, I, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. Okay, first things first, both initials are different. Yes, it's two different letters.
Correct.
Yes. And I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to say they are both consonants. I'm going to say neither is a vowel.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go for it. Let me just think about the order for a moment. Look right at the camera again. Think about the order. I'm just going to go with okay. So you see where for intuitive psychology, you see where the intuition and the psychology comes in. Okay. I'm going to put the pencil down. I'm going to keep the notepad in frame here, kind of up here by my face so that you can see it. I don't know how it's going to like frame it later on for the video. So I'm going to keep it right in the center with me. And for the first time, John, what was this person's initials?
KM.
One more time. There was a bit of a lag.
Oh, sorry. KM.
That's okay. KM. Okay. Did it stand for Kim out of curiosity? I'm just curious because there was one vowel I went for and it was almost the I. I was just curious.
Actually, it was Kelly.
It was Kelly. Okay, that's okay. So if you were going to make this heart on like one of those trees or park benches, it would be JR plus KM.
Get out of here!
Just like that.
Yeah.
So I have written that exactly. You can look on Facebook. I'll take a picture of this and post it on, Instagram and everything. People can watch the video. I got both initials I almost swapped them too. I almost did MK. But I was like, but maybe Kim because like the I in the middle, I wasn't sure. But that was the reasoning I went with that order. So there's.
Oh my God. I can't say her name, but I am not BSing you folks. That was my first crush. Her first name was Kelly. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
I won't say the last name. Maybe she's married now.
Don't say that. Yeah, don't say the last name.
We won't say that. But it was an M.
She finds this at some point and wants to tag herself. She can. But there we
she
go.
can. She can. She won't remember me. She'll be like,
okay, that's fair.
Wait a minute.
That's fair.
This was first crush. So we're talking like middle school. Oh my God. And again, folks, I'm not BSing here. I'm going to be honest with Joe because I want people to understand that he puts work into this. Okay. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Even though you may not say it's not work, but it is work. He still
it's work. It's work you got to enjoy. Like again, like you've got to find like what I do is difficult, but I don't think it's, I don't think it's, I think life is difficult right now. Like, let's be real, like 2026, it's difficult for all of us. So here, let's do one more. This is a little bit more of a guided visualization, but with everyone. Okay. So this is something that everyone can listen along with and they can play back as well. And it should, if you open your mind, it should work with everyone. So before we wrap up, I want to invite you and all the listeners to try something a little more personal. It's a way to connect not with me, but with yourself. Okay. And again, if you want to close your eyes for this, you can. But I want you to imagine that it's a bright sunny day and you come across a secret garden. It's a wall with vines and growth around it, but you find a small wooden door. Okay. Now, again, this is a guided visualization. So there's going to be a lot of metaphors and things that don't make literal sense, but they'll make emotional and spiritual sense. To open this door and enter this secret garden, you need to open it with a key of virtue. Okay, so I'm going to list off some positive virtues and character traits. You don't have to remember all of them. Just remember one that you see in yourself and tend to see in others. Okay, don't say it out loud. Same thing. People listening or watching this can follow along with this as well. Remember one of these virtues or character traits. Here they come: strength, tolerance, wit, bravery, youth, sincerity, tenacity, wisdom, balance, and sensitivity. That's about 10. You should have remembered one or two of those. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Focus on one. Remember one virtue and concentrate on it. Okay. If you're listening, if you're anyone listening to this, if you want to back up the recording a little bit to hear them again, you can. But concentrate on that one virtue and imagine suddenly a beam of light comes down from the heavens. And in this beam is the key to this door. And the head of this key is the first letter of your virtue or character trait. Visualize that. Once you've got it visualized, put it in the lock and slowly open the door and feel the warmth of the light shining on you as you enter this secret garden. It's beautiful. The plants, the trees, the wildlife. However, in the center of this garden, there's a special tree. It's a mystical tree that has many different fruits growing on it. I'll tell you all the names of the fruits in a moment. Now, one of these names is almost certainly going to have the letter from your key in its name. Now, that letter might not be the first letter of the fruit's name. Your letter might be in the middle or all the way at the end of the fruit's name, okay? So stay alert. Again, this is a creative visualization and free association. Remember the fruit that has your letter in your name. Ready? Okay, here we go. The fruits are apple, peach, strawberry, pineapple, lemon, lime, grape, pear, orange, plum. You should have heard one that has your letter in it, correct? Okay.
Correct.
And that therefore everyone listening should also have a letter or heard their letter in one of those fruits. If not, back up. But now you're focusing on this fruit. So you've entered this secret garden. You've come up to this tree with all this different fruit. You know your fruit. Imagine you can reach up and pluck it from the tree. And you can feel it in your hands. And you can take a big bite of that fruit. You can imagine its sweetness, its texture, its bright color, its bright red color. Because if you've listened properly and have been properly guided through this visualization, you should be tasting a strawberry.
Come on!
And everyone that's listened to, you can play it back, try it out, play it with your friends. And if you guide yourself truly for it, you will be guided to the strawberry.
So, Joe, I have to admit, I was playing around with my mind to kind of trick you up. I was going to go, I'm going to get him on this. I'm going to get him. Not that I'm trying to get you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Don't take that as the wrong way. Don't take this the wrong way.
There's a moment where people go like, can you really do this? If I change my mind, is it going to,
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, okay. And then I was like, no way he's going to get this. Because the first thought is apple, right? Let's be honest. Apple. Everyone knows apple, banana. I don't know. Something to the effect of like apple. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm going to get him. He's going to think I'm going to say apple, but I'm not. And I'll trick him. And then I'll be like, ha! Nope, you got me. Joe, I love it. I love it, Joe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it.
I love it.
And it gets even weirder at the live shows too.
Please, people, please. We'll talk. We'll wrap up here. We'll have Joe put his spiel out there and talk about stuff. But I have to ask you just one more question before we wrap up.
Sure.
Do you get silly questions when you're at a show? Like, I don't know. Is that right?
Sure,
Is that
yeah? No, there's
silly, something like I don't even. You have to tell me what would be a silly question at your show.
People sometimes ask me for lottery numbers. Lottery numbers, which I'll tell you. So here's the I've come around on silly questions because every job has them. Again, my friend, a friend of mine. He built a theater. He does a more traditional magic show. He saws his assistant in half. They levitate around the stage, flying through hoops and everything. It's amazing stuff. It's better than most of the shows in Vegas. And they're in Lake Geneva as well. They're great. And he always hears like, oh, can you make my wife disappear? Ha, 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 all that stuff. Yeah. And I always hear like, oh, can you tell me the lottery numbers? The other one is, tell me what I'm thinking right now. Like, what am I thinking? And typically those are people 9 times out of 10. Or if I say like, hi, I'm Joe, what's your name? And they go, oh, shouldn't you tell me all this other stuff? And I just it used to annoy me, but I kind of turn it into a playful moment where I say, I'll be honest with them. I say, no, this is the human getting to know each other part. We'll get to the mind reading stuff later. But my two favorite things, if someone says, tell me what I'm thinking right now, I always say, you're thinking of how you're going to deny the next thing I say to you. Because they always go, they're not really listening to what I'm saying. They're just getting ready to say no for the gag. They're not really listening.
Yeah.
So for me to say, you're going to deny the next thing I say to you. And they go, nope, wait, no. And it's like, thank you. I'm right. You denied the next thing I said to you. Done. Thank you. Good night. So it kind of loops them in. They're like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
It kind of trips them up, which is hilarious. What's funny, kids are similar. For kids, I always say cookies. And for some reason, they always look amazed by that and go, yeah, he's right. And I think, because the truth of the matter is, I don't think they've got anything in their head, really. Like, what am I thinking right now? And then they're deciding, or they're just getting ready to say no. The kids aren't getting ready to say no. They're just trying to come up with something. So if you say something quick, it's kind of like, don't think of a pink elephant. They'll just go, yeah, I guess I am thinking of cookies. But for grown-ups, it's that. My favorite thing, though, is someone asks me for the lottery numbers, is I just look at them and go, okay, great. Sure, one thing. No problem. You might want to write this down. 8/24. Oh, no. I went further into the future. I saw what you did with the money, and it's awful. I can't in good conscience give you these numbers. I'm real sorry. That's the other one. The other one, sometimes I'll come out as a gag on stage. I'll be like, boom, I'll name a bunch of numbers and go, oh, by the way, that's next week's lottery numbers. I hope you're writing them down. I'm not going to repeat them. Or I say, oh, these are guaranteed winning numbers. I just don't know for what date or state. So that, those are kind of fun. Who gets the questions a lot actually is my wife, Lindsay. If she's at shows, people are like, does he read your mind at home? And she just, without skipping a beat, not if he knows what's good for him. So occasionally I'll get genuine emails. People ask me questions if they think their house is haunted. I have friends who are more, and again, I'm very interested in all that stuff, but I have a good friend. She is a medium and she's got a background in psychology, and she's done historical investigations for historical societies and stuff. So she's worked with people and is better. If they are experiencing weird things in their home, if someone emails me, I usually pass them on to her. But for the most part, people have odd questions, sometimes it's, but that's part of the fun of it too. It's, you never know what people are going to ask. I mean, that's the whole reason why, crowd work has gotten so popular online with comedians. It's most of it is just their asking the comedian, what pizza do you like or whatever. And it's the comedian's job to turn that into gold. And so, and I've been trying to think of ways to do that for social media, but I also, again, I want people to come see the show, but I also don't want to spoil what happens in the show too much. I'm trying to figure out. So I try to make stuff more, rather than showing clips of the show, I try to make stuff specifically for social media and that kind of stuff. So it's more tailored to that.
That's awesome. I love that. You just, again, I'm sorry, I got one more question for you.
Go ahead.
Wrap up.
It's okay.
Have you ever been at a show and a couple together is like, oh, we're going to be together forever, and maybe you get a weird feeling, be like, I wouldn't buy that house if I were you?
We all have that feeling. We've all have.
Okay, right. Yeah, that's right.
That is not, but that has nothing to do with psychic or mysticism, or that's just intuition we all have. That's the thing too. So I actually don't, I prefer the term psychic, I prefer the term mystic to the term psychic, because a lot of what I do isn't mind reading, but it's not really, again, it's a kind of its own thing. So whether it's the guided visualization or that kind of stuff. However, and also so many people, when they hear psychic, they think medium. So they think I'm either going to talk to their dead relatives or I can give them lottery numbers and see the future. And I don't get either of those. I get vibes. I read people, So that said, though, we all have moments where we walk in on some friends and we find out later they were in a huge fight and we felt that funk in the air when they came on. I mean, perfect example of how we were all psychics. The Coldplay concert couple. No one didn't know. Nothing was said. We all just knew. I think that's why it exploded so much, because we all just knew. Now, of course, there's various reasons why we knew.
Yeah.
And all this. Actually, a good friend of mine, Spidey, he is behavioral arts, I think, on YouTube. He has a background, he's a mentalist who has a background in criminal psychology and criminal profiling. So he does videos where he breaks down like the body language of people. He breaks down the body language in that video. He's done stuff where he's broken down body language in like debates and stuff. And it's fascinating stuff. It's really, really great. I wish I was more, if I go full Sherlock Holmes to try and be analytical, that's what steers me wrong. The more I don't think and the more I just kind of free flow, the more accurate I find I am. But the way he kind of locks in and can just kind of tell all these things about people is amazing. So yeah, I think we're all mind readers. We're all mind readers to a certain degree. But again, that's, the idea for the show is to tap into that. I'm using some of that, but also theatrically heightened it to give people a mystery to talk about for a long time.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
So Joe, again, I can talk to you for hours. You're amazing.
Same.
I'd love to have you back on again, because there's a whole ton of questions I didn't get to.
I've got tons of stuff. Yeah, let's there's some Friday the 13th coming up this year. There's Halloween, everything. Yeah, anytime you want me back on, just let me know.
Love it. So tell my spooky friends where they can find you, what's coming up. What do you got going?
I am at Joe Diamond Live on all social media platforms. My website is joediamondlive.com. You can also find me under themidwestmystic.com. If you are in the heart of the Midwest, you can make your way to Lake Geneva anytime in the coming year. I'll go to thepsychicparlor.com. You'll find it through joediamondlive.com too, but thepsychicparlor.com will take you directly to where you can see dates and buy tickets. They do sell out pretty quickly. In fact, last night we had 4 seats left, and it was the first show since August that hasn't been sold out. Like, shows do tend to sell out, and I don't have billboards. I don't have like TV ads or anything. It's all from word of mouth, which I'm very proud of. Like the fact that people tell their friends and come back and see the show or bring their friends. Like, to me, that's the highest bar. So I'm really, really proud of that. But yeah, dates for the summer are going to be going up really soon. We're going to be doing a special show on Friday the 13th in February. It's going to be a spooky Valentine's version of the show. So even if you come see me and want to see something different at the Maxwell will be putting that together. And then we'll be adding dates. So we're on Fridays in the winter and spring months. And in the summer, we're going to Tuesdays, because Tuesdays in Lake Geneva, people are on the beach on the weekends. It's also not dark till like 9:30 at night. Right. But like Tuesdays, there's like not much going on. So we've done Tuesdays the last few years, and it's been fun kind of midweek counter programming for that area, and leaves the weekends open for me to travel and do, again, different events and such. And that said too, if you're not coming to the Midwest, if you listen outside of the Dairyland proper, and beyond, I travel for shows. I'm flying to Texas in a few weeks to do a show. I'm going to be in Hawaii later next month. I'm going, I'll do small, one-off theater shows and ticketed shows everywhere from, again, historic theaters to, I did a Moose Lodge this last year. Sold out. It was 200 people, and they were all there to see me. I didn't care. Like, it was like, are you kidding? This is amazing. Like for this small town in the middle of nowhere, Illinois, like this was like the circus coming to town. They were like, oh my God, the guy from Penn and Teller from Vegas, he's coming here. And yeah, they were like, they had their, they said, set records for, people buying tickets for it. Cause I think people were like looking forward to this for like weeks leading up to it. So yeah, so don't feel like, oh, I don't have a haunted location, or, oh, I don't sell, like, I'll do house parties, corporate events. You have any kind of event that you want to make more mysterious and more interactive and fun. Again, just, joediamondlive.com, and you can book me. I am available.
Nice. Please do it. Joe, again, so much fun.
Thank you
I
so
had
much.
a blast. This meant a lot to me. Thank you. Stay spooky. Have a great one, Joe. Thanks.